Hello brothers and welcome to Sigma Old Man channel. Power unused is power wasted, and sometimes it even rots the man who buries it. Let that sink in. Because while some Sigma males walk around like silent nuclear codes, undetectable, unreadable, and completely locked, others walk like walking paradoxes, invisible yet unavoidable. One hides his power like it's contraband. The other wields it like it's his birthright. And here's the brutal truth. Research shows that most highly intelligent and independent men downplay their strength simply to avoid being targeted or misunderstood. That's right. Some of the most capable minds in the room are the ones pretending they're just figuring things out. Now that's not humility, that's self-imposed exile. And let's be honest, some Sigma males are so good at hiding their power they could be sitting in a room with fire-breathing potential and still ask someone else to light the match. Meanwhile, the ones who own it, they don't wait to be seen. They engineer moments that can't be ignored. So today we're ripping the veil off both the ghost kings who bury their greatness and the quiet warlords who refuse to shrink just to be liked. Get ready, this isn't some motivational fluff about stepping into your light. This is the unfiltered breakdown of the two breeds of Sigma males, the ones who ghost their own legacy, and the ones who use their silence to control the boardroom, the battlefield, and your mind. Let's begin. Number 1. Hidden Sigmas. Dream of being unleashed, owning Sigmas are already uncaged. Some Sigma males live like sleeping lions. They have the vision, the intelligence, the instincts, everything it takes to change the game. But they're stuck in waiting mode, waiting for the right time, waiting for permission, waiting for someone to validate their greatness. They've built an empire inside their minds, but it never leaves the blueprint stage. It's all talk, potential, possibilities, and someday. But here's the harsh truth. Potential that isn't used becomes dead weight, and the longer they sit on it, the heavier it gets. The Sigma males who own their power don't wait for stars to align. They are the alignment. They don't need a sign, a green light, or a round of applause. They've already decided that the only approval that matters is their own. While others are hesitating, they're building. While others are fantasizing, they're executing. They might not move fast, but they move with purpose, and every step is aimed at building a life where nobody can put a leash on them. The key difference is mindset. The hidden Sigma believes he has something to prove. The one who owns it knows he has something to protect. His power is not for display. It's for direction. It's not loud or flashy. It's silent, strategic, and cold when it has to be. He's not here to convince the world of anything. He's here to control his own outcome, and he knows that waiting is just another form of surrender. When a Sigma male finally stops asking, doubting, and hiding, he becomes lethal. Not in a violent way, but in a way that makes him impossible to manipulate, sway, or predict. That's when he goes from misunderstood to untouchable. That's when he stops playing by the world's rules and starts creating his own reality. No more dreaming, no more shrinking, just precision, presence, and unapologetic self-command. And that's the difference. One Sigma keeps all his power locked up in a vault of fear. The other walks through fire with a quiet grin because he knows he's already uncaged. And that's when the world starts to notice and quietly shifts around him. Number 2, the hiders fear their impact. The owners engineer it. Some Sigma males are haunted by their own potential. They've got sharp ideas, rare insight, and an energy that could shift any space they walk into. But instead of using it, they mute themselves. They downplay their thoughts, water down their presence, and overthink every move. Why? Because they fear what might happen if they actually let it all out. They're scared of being too much, too intense, too different. They don't want to upset the balance, draw attention, or shake things up. So they sit on their power like it's a ticking bomb, hoping no one notices it's even there. But the ones who own their power, they don't just release the bomb, they build it, aim it, and launch it with precision. They understand that their impact is inevitable, so they choose to be in control of it. Instead of pulling back to stay safe, they lean in and calculate the exact moment to strike. They don't avoid ripple effects, they engineer them, not to impress, but to disrupt systems, challenge norms, and move the entire board 5 steps forward. The owning Sigma is strategic. He's not afraid to be misunderstood in the short term because he's thinking in long-term power moves. If shaking the room means exposing truth, he'll do it. If losing a few people means gaining clarity, he accepts it. He doesn't tiptoe around the world. He builds shockwaves into his plan. And when the tsunami hits, he's already standing at the highest point because he designed it that way. The difference is intent. The hider wants to avoid damage. The owner knows destruction is part of evolution, and if something can't withstand his impact, it wasn't strong enough to be in his world to begin with. That's not arrogance, that's ownership. The kind that doesn't apologize for being powerful, the kind that doesn't flinch when the world shakes, because he was the one who caused the quake in the first place. So while one hides to avoid consequences, the other crafts consequences on purpose. And in that bold, unshakable decision, he becomes the force that others either follow or fear. And number 3, the ones who hide it use silence as camouflage. The ones who own it use silence as ammunition. Some Sigma males use silence like a shield, not because they're mysterious or calculated, but because they're trying not to be noticed. They stay quiet to avoid confrontation, judgment, or expectations. They think if they stay under the radar, they won't be targeted. But what they don't realize is, when you silence yourself long enough, you start disappearing from your own life. Their silence becomes a hiding place, not a strategy. It's not power, it's fear wearing a mask. Then there are the ones who own their silence. These men aren't hiding, they're stalking the right moment. Their silence isn't empty, it's loaded. They observe everything, say nothing, and when they finally speak, people stop breathing for a second. Not because they're loud or dramatic, but because the weight of their words comes from intentional restraint. They don't talk to fill space, they speak to shape it. For the hidden Sigma, silence is avoidance. It's a way to not get involved, not stand out, not take responsibility for how their presence affects others. But for the one who owns it, silence is pressure, on purpose. Every moment he stays quiet, the tension builds. He's aware of the power he holds and he uses it like a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. He doesn't need to be the loudest in the room, he just needs to be the one everyone listens to when it matters. That's the split. One plays small to be safe. The other stays silent so his impact hits harder. One is silent to fade. The other is silent to strike. Same behavior but completely different intentions. The hiding Sigma is hoping not to be seen. The owning Sigma knows he's already seen, even when he says nothing, because when he finally speaks, it's game over. Number 4, the hidden ones avoid chaos. The owned ones command it. Some Sigma males play it safe because they think chaos is a threat. They avoid conflict, dodge messy situations, and stay out of anything that might shake the room. Not because they can't handle it, but because deep down, they're scared of what their involvement might unleash. They've seen what happens when they speak the truth, challenge the system, or disrupt a pattern, and it made people uncomfortable. So instead of owning that power, they shrink from it. They keep the peace, not because it's right, but because they're afraid of the storm they're capable of creating. But the Sigmas who own their power, they don't run from chaos, they orchestrate it. They know when to let the quiet burn and when to flip the entire structure upside down, not for attention, not for ego, but because they can see what no one else sees. The system is broken, the environment is stale, the silence is fake. And sometimes you don't fix things by adjusting. You burn it all down and rebuild it smarter. The hidden ones confuse stillness with peace. They think not stirring the pot means things are under control, but all they're doing is letting dysfunction thrive in silence. The ones who own it, they know chaos is a tool, a weapon, a reset button. And when used with purpose, it can wipe out the noise and leave only what's real. Owning Sigmas don't cause drama, they cause clarity. Their chaos doesn't come from emotional reactions, it comes from brutal logic. If a structure doesn't serve truth, freedom, or growth, they'll destroy it without blinking. Not out of malice, but because they know they can build something 10 times better. That's the power they hold. The hider walks through the fire, hoping not to disturb the ashes. The owner, he is the matchstick. And if shaking the ground is what it takes to expose the truth or fix the foundation, he's ready. Not afraid, not reckless, just fully in control of chaos and unafraid to use it as a weapon of transformation. Number 5, hidden Sigmas are obsessed with control, owning Sigmas are control. Hidden Sigma males are quietly anxious about how they come across. They don't want to seem too intense, too distant, too much of anything, so they obsess over every word, every look, every move. They overcorrect, tone themselves down, and constantly monitor themselves like they're on trial in their own head. They're not trying to control the world, they're trying to control how the world sees them, and it becomes exhausting. The moment they step into a room, their brain kicks into overdrive. Don't say too much, don't make them uncomfortable, don't be too silent either, blend in, stay neutral. It's not composure, it's quiet self-sabotage dressed up as self-control. But the Sigmas who own their power, they don't micromanage anything. They walk in and shift the energy without even trying. They're not the loudest. They're not trying to be seen, but they are the gravitational pull in the room. People naturally adjust themselves around them without knowing why. That's the difference. They don't chase control, they are control. They embody it. Every move they make feels intentional, even when it's casual. They don't need to dominate. Their self-possession alone recalibrates the entire space. The hidden Sigma needs to constantly analyze his surroundings to feel stable. He's thinking 5 steps ahead just to survive the moment. But the owning Sigma is the moment. He doesn't adapt to the room adapts to him. That's not arrogance, it's the outcome of mastering your own energy so completely that other people's reactions become predictable noise. Control isn't something you fight for, it's something you become when you stop apologizing for who you are. The hider is tense, always tightening his grip on everything, afraid something might slip. The owner is calm, because he knows nothing important can be taken from him. He's not trying to play the game better. He is the quiet force that reshapes the board, without speaking, without effort, without ever needing to explain why. Number 6, hidden Sigmas are phantom kings, owning Sigmas are shadow generals. Hidden Sigma males have the blueprint of greatness, razor-sharp minds, high-level strategy, emotional self-discipline, and a presence that could command any room. But they vanish. Not because they lack potential, but because they fear what it might cost to fully step into it. They'd rather disappear into the background than risk the pressure that comes with being seen as powerful. So they ghost their own influence. They have the crown but refuse to wear it. They think staying invisible keeps them safe, when in reality it just keeps them small. They're kings in theory, ruling nothing, commanding no one, quietly sitting on thrones they've convinced themselves they don't deserve. Then there are the ones who own it. They don't chase status, they operate behind it. You won't see them in the spotlight, but if you follow the trail of quiet influence, you'll find them at the source. These are the shadow generals. They don't need applause, they don't need titles. But make no mistake, they're the reason empires rise or collapse. They move through networks, conversations, systems, silently bending outcomes in their favor without ever needing the credit. While hidden Sigmas overthink the consequences of standing in power, the owners have already accepted that power isn't about being liked, it's about leverage. They don't avoid it, they wield it, not for ego, but because they understand that staying in the shadows doesn't mean being passive, it means being strategic. Let others wear the shiny crowns and give speeches. The owning Sigma is the one who told them what to say. Phantom kings walk around carrying brilliance they refuse to activate. They wait for the right environment, the right people, the perfect moment, but it never comes. Meanwhile, shadow generals create their own systems from behind the scenes. They don't wait for permission, they pull strings, close doors, and open new ones in silence. And by the time everyone else realizes what happened, the board has already been flipped and the Sigma is 10 moves ahead, sipping his coffee like nothing happened. That's the difference. One hides because he fears what he could become. The other already became it, without asking for anyone's approval. Number 7, the hiders numb their sharpness, the owners hone it into a blade, hidden Sigma. Males are often some of the sharpest people you'll never notice. They're deep thinkers, hyper-aware, and 10 steps ahead in their minds, but you'd never know it because they dull their brilliance on purpose. They downplay their insight in conversations. They hold back when they could speak up. They settle for average settings and surface-level interactions because standing out feels risky. They've been made to feel like their intensity is too much, so they learn to sand themselves down just to be digestible. But here's the problem. When you keep numbing your edge to avoid discomfort, you don't just protect others, you weaken yourself. These Sigmas aren't lacking in talent. They're lacking the nerve to use it fully. They fear the consequences of being sharp in a world that's obsessed with soft illusions and surface behavior. So instead of slicing through the nonsense with their mind, they wrap it up and stay quiet. Instead of questioning the system, they play along just enough to not ruffle feathers. They become smaller versions of themselves, palatable, polite, and forgettable. The sigmas who own their power don't play that game. They take the same sharpness and sharpen it even more, not to show off, not to dominate, but because they know life is full of fog, lies, fake rules, and hidden traps. And when that moment comes, the one where clarity is everything, they want their mind to be a weapon, not a decoration. They study not just to be smart, but to be prepared. They train their instincts. They refine their ability to detect BS. They cut through conversations, systems, and facades like a blade through paper, calmly and with precision. Owning sigmas don't dull their edge to fit in. They let others feel uncomfortable if they must. They're not here to soothe the room. They're here to see clearly, cut sharply, and move efficiently. If someone's threatened by that, so be it. A sharp tool isn't dangerous to the wise. It's only threatening to the ones trying to hide. The difference is this. One sigma throws away the sword because he's afraid of what it might do. The other sharpens it daily in silence, knowing full well there will come a day he'll need to use it. And when that day comes, he won't hesitate. Number 8, hidden sigmas. Outsmart themselves. Owning sigmas outsmart the world. Hidden sigma males are some of the smartest people you'll ever meet, but they turn that intelligence against themselves. They don't just think, they overthink to the point where every decision becomes a maze. Every possible outcome gets analyzed, dissected, reanalyzed, and then doubted. They second-guess their instincts. They get stuck in mental loops, constantly trying to make the perfect move, which often means making no move at all. Their mind becomes a prison built with their own brilliance. Every thought a lock, every doubt a bar on the window. This self-sabotage doesn't come from lack of insight, it comes from fear of misusing it. They don't trust their power, so they bury it in logic. They rehearse conversations in their head that never happen. They mentally prep for battles no one's fighting. They become chess masters who never actually touch the board. And while they're trapped in theoretical perfectionism, the world keeps spinning, and they keep missing opportunities. But the sigmas who own their power, their thinking is weaponized. They don't overanalyze, they strategize. They don't drown in options. They cut straight through to outcomes. Their mental clarity is brutal, focused, and clean. They're not trying to be right all the time. They're aiming to be effective. That's why they often seem calm while everyone else is scrambling, because they saw the pattern long before it revealed itself. While others are reacting emotionally, they're already on the next level, executing what looks like instinct but is actually precision. Owning sigmas don't try to avoid mistakes. They use them as data. They don't get lost in their heads because their mind isn't a maze, it's a map. They see connections, predict moves, and make decisions with ruthless clarity. Not because they're guessing, but because they train themselves to trust what they see. So while the hidden sigma gets trapped in his genius, the owning sigma becomes dangerous with his. One is stuck calculating possibilities forever. The other takes one look, moves decisively, and by the time anyone else realizes what just happened, he's already 3 moves ahead and holding the outcome in his hands. Number 9, hidden sigmas. Obsess over identity. Owning sigmas become unreadable on purpose. Hidden sigma males are constantly trying to define themselves. They read every personality framework, analyze every emotion, dissect their past, and obsess over finding who they truly are. It's not a hobby, it's a mission. They want clarity so badly they get stuck in the loop of self-identification. Am I ENTJ or INFJ? Am I leaning Sigma or just introverted? What's my core trauma? They overlabel, overthink, and overdefine every piece of themselves, hoping it will give them control or peace. But in reality, they're building a cage made of concepts, and the more labels they wear, the tighter it gets. They believe identity is the anchor, the thing that'll finally make them feel grounded. But the problem is, the more they cling to a fixed idea of self, the less adaptable they become. They start resisting change. They second-guess growth that doesn't fit their label. They pass up moves that could elevate them simply because it doesn't match the identity they've decided on. Ironically, in trying to find themselves, they lose all flexibility, and Sigma energy requires flexibility. Now, the ones who own their power, they don't bother with identity debates. They understand one thing very clearly. Fixed identity is a limitation, not a superpower. They don't need to define themselves to operate. They morph, they adapt, they bend reality by becoming whatever the situation requires. In one room, they're quiet and unreadable. In another, they're direct and surgical. In another, they're magnetic without saying a word. They flow through roles without attaching their ego to any of them. Not because they're fake, but because they understand that identity is a tool, not a trap. They don't ask, "Who am I?" every 5 minutes. They ask, "What does this moment require of me?" That's the difference. While the hidden Sigma is stuck trying to locate himself on a mental map, the owning Sigma is already moving through walls, shifting gears and rewriting rules, because he knows the most powerful version of himself is fluid, not fixed. He doesn't need to be figured out. In fact, the less people can read him, the more leverage he has. And that's by design. Number 10, hidden Sigmas. Accumulate knowledge. Owning Sigmas exploit timing. Hidden Sigma males are knowledge junkies. They read endlessly, take notes, highlight everything, and stack up insights like survival rations. They prepare for every possible scenario, trying to eliminate all risk before they act. Their minds are impressive, sharp, layered, deeply informed, but their obsession with being ready keeps them stuck in theory. They keep learning, planning, optimizing, but rarely pulling the trigger. They believe intelligence is power, but forget that power unused is just weight. They're waiting for a moment where they feel 100% confident, but that moment never comes, so they sit on mountains of wisdom with nothing to show for it. It's not about laziness, it's fear disguised as perfectionism. They think if they just read one more book, one more strategy, watch one more expert talk, then they'll move. But time doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It rewards those who move anyway. Owning Sigmas see things differently. They value knowledge, but they're not hoarders. They're operators. They act with speed and accuracy, not because they know everything, but because they understand timing beats perfection. They don't need all the answers, they just need the right window. And when that window opens, they strike, even if their plan isn't flawless. That's their edge. While everyone else is stuck in preparation mode, they're already executing and adapting in real time. They don't let knowledge paralyze them. They trust what they know enough to leap, and they trust their instincts to clean up the rest as they go. It's not recklessness, it's calculated momentum. They understand that hesitation kills more potential than failure ever could. Where hidden Sigmas hesitate out of fear of being wrong, owning Sigmas win by being slightly wrong at the right time. Because in the real world, dominance isn't about who's the smartest, it's about who moves when it matters. That's the gap. One spends years preparing to be perfect, the other drops in at 70%, owns the moment and figures the rest out while everyone else is still stuck at the starting line with a perfect plan and no action. Number 11, hidden Sigmas are frozen by potential. Owning Sigmas are fueled by it. Hidden Sigma males are haunted by the weight of their own potential. They know they're capable of great things, and that knowledge terrifies them, not because they doubt their talent, but because they fear what might come with using it. What if they fail? What if they succeed and it changes everything? What if they shine too brightly and draw heat? So they sit frozen between endless options, imagining every worst-case scenario. Their potential becomes a burden instead of a fuel source. The pressure of getting it right every time makes them stall. They spend so much time planning not to fall that they never actually fly. This paralysis shows up as procrastination, over-preparation, or hiding behind maybe later. Deep down, they're afraid of becoming too visible, too influential, or even too powerful for their current life to handle. So instead of risking the leap, they wrap their potential in silence and keep it in storage, safe but useless. But the Sigmas who own their power, they look at that same potential and get lit up. They don't focus on what could go wrong. They're high on the possibility of what could go right. That possibility becomes fuel. It gives them energy others don't have. They don't need applause or permission. They move because they believe in the outcome before anyone else sees it. They'll bet on themselves even in silence, even when no one is watching, especially then. Owning Sigmas don't get paralyzed by potential. They weaponize it. They move fast, not because they're rushing, but because they trust that momentum creates more clarity than overthinking ever could. Every step forward gives them more fire, more proof, more leverage. They're not obsessed with being perfect. They're addicted to progress, and that's what sets them apart. While the hidden Sigma is stuck waiting for the perfect moment, the owning Sigma is already creating a dozen imperfect ones that add up to something extraordinary. He doesn't care if it looks messy or if no one claps. He's not performing, he's building, he's not dreaming, he's doing. And that difference? That's what puts him 10 steps ahead while the hider is still debating which step to take first. Number 12, hidden sigmas. Avoid the spotlight out of insecurity. Owning sigmas disappear into it like a ghost. Hidden sigma males avoid the spotlight like it's a trap. And for them, it kind of is. The moment eyes are on them, they overthink every detail. Do I look too intense? Did I say too much? What if they misunderstand me? They don't trust what they bring to the table, even when it's rare, sharp, and powerful. The spotlight feels like exposure, not opportunity. It highlights their self-doubt, not their strength, so they shrink, they stay on the sidelines, they watch others speak less, do less, know less, but take the stage anyway. And instead of stepping up, the hidden sigma convinces himself the spotlight just isn't for people like him. But the sigmas who own their power, they walk straight into the spotlight and disappear into it. They don't try to be seen. They let themselves be noticed just long enough to bend the perception in their favor, then vanish again before anyone gets too close. They use attention the way a skilled assassin uses darkness, not to be known, but to control the narrative. They speak only when necessary, and when they do, every word lands like a coded command. People walk away thinking they understand him, but they only saw what he wanted them to see. He doesn't chase attention, he manages it. When it finds him, he owns the space without performing. No showmanship, no self-promotion, just presence, cool, calculated, and deliberate. While the hidden sigma hides to protect himself, the owning sigma uses the spotlight to set traps. He knows the power of perception, and he uses it as leverage. One well-placed comment, one perfectly timed silence, one raised eyebrow. He doesn't just take up space, he reshapes the space around him. The hidden sigma thinks the spotlight will expose his flaws. The owning sigma knows it will amplify his control, because when he steps into the light, it's not about being validated, it's about setting the tone, tilting the power dynamic, and then vanishing before anyone can trace the source. That's not insecurity, that's art. That's psychological chess. And by the time anyone realizes what just happened, he's already 2 moves ahead, back in the shadows, watching everything play out exactly as he designed it. At the end of the day, both types of sigma males, the ones who hide and the ones who own, were forged in similar fires. Same intensity, same intelligence, same isolation. But what separates them isn't talent, it's decision. One chose to mute himself for the comfort of others. The other chose to become the discomfort the world needed to feel. Hidden sigmas are like loaded weapons locked in safes, dangerous in theory, unused in reality. They sit on power like it's a ticking bomb, scared to detonate what could set them free. They wait for the world to open a door that only they were ever meant to kick down. But life doesn't reward the careful. It rewards the decisive, the ruthless, the unapologetically self-directed. The sigmas who own it, they didn't get there by accident. They built themselves in the shadows. They used silence as a weapon, rejection as fuel, shame as armor, and chaos as canvas. They don't need permission. They are the exception. They don't react to life, they rewrite it. And the world, whether it knows it or not, bends around them. So if you're a sigma who's still hiding, understand this. Your power won't wait forever. You either use it, or it becomes your prison. You can keep dreaming of being unleashed, or you can walk out of the cage, no applause, no audience, and start building the empire your mind has been whispering about since day one. Because the only real difference between the ones who vanish and the ones who dominate is who had the guts to stop waiting. If this hit deep, then don't just scroll away. Subscribe to the channel. This is where the surface ends and the real talk begins. If you're the kind of mind that thrives in the shadows but aims to move mountains, this space was built for you. Drop a comment below. Let's hear where you stand, still hiding or already owning it. Either way, no judgment, just growth. Like the video, if it sparked something in you, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that silence doesn't mean weakness, unless you choose to stay silent forever. We're just getting started, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.